Okay, so thank you for joining another SEMrush webcast. I hope you guys had a great Memorial Day weekend. I know I definitely 100% enjoyed the day off. Today is Tuesday, May 27th, 2014, and we're live today at the SEMrush North American headquarters, which is just outside of Philadelphia, PA. A lot of people don't know that. As always, I'd like to introduce myself for those who may not have attended any of my previous webinars. My name is David Black, and my information is right here up on the screen. I'm what's known as the Customer Success Director here at SEMrush, and I basically eat, sleep, and breathe our software. I can answer virtually any question you have about our data, from how we collect the data to suggestions on how to leverage it, even some things, functionality in the software itself. So today's webinar is called 5 Things I Hate About SEMrush, and the title's meant to be a little cheeky. I don't actually hate SEMrush at all. I think it's an incredibly useful piece of software with applications that extend beyond marketing only on the internet. I'll continue to evangelize and endorse this product until I'm dead in the ground, not just because they sign my checks, but because I genuinely believe and personally thrive on the intelligence data that we provide. Unfortunately, though, it's never a one-size-fits-all situation. Every service, every software, every data set, it all has its shortcomings to the end user. And there's always going to be things like quality assurance, software bugs, user experience. All those things are near and dear to my heart. But today we're here to talk about that real reason why you come to our website. It's because you want those golden nuggets of quality competitor analysis data that you use often to refine your own marketing strategies. So what happens when you don't get exactly what you're looking for? You may be a current customer that says, man, I wish SEMrush could do this, or I can't believe that I can't see data like that. And I know we have a lot of previous customers in the audience too. You may have said at some point, oh, I used SEMrush once, but it sucked because insert reason here. You may be a prospective customer. We have a lot of those in here today, and you might be saying, yeah, I heard SEMrush is pretty good, but it doesn't do this, so why should I pay for it? And that's pretty valid. And that's where I come in. Our team is here to address those concerns and put those fears to rest. So today we'll examine those top gripes, classic misconceptions, and those quality standards in which, according to some users, we may have failed to deliver. And it almost hurts me to say that out loud. But rest assured, today you'll leave here having learned something new and hopefully something valuable that will ultimately increase your odds of a successful SEMrush experience. So let's start off with a very common gripe that most of you have probably encountered in the past. Number 1, I can't do anything with this data because there's not enough of it, right? So let's kind of like set up the scene. You've read some reviews, you've decided to kind of pull the trigger and try SEMrush. You get your account all set up and kind of away you go. And your first instinct naturally is to type in your own domain or a client's domain that you might be working with, and immediately you hit that search button and you receive this dreaded nothing found message. It's like, bum, 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 nothing found. How could this be, right? You rank for a whole bunch of keywords. Your website is pulling in traffic. So how can this supposed quote-unquote web's leading SERP analysis tool not produce any data for your website? But there's a very simple explanation for that. And when I speak to users who call with this very complaint, I always like to start by making sure that they know what data we carry. Essentially, everything kind of starts off with our database of keywords. And this database consists of over 100 million of the world's most popular keywords. And they're all being distributed across 25 geographic regions of Google, as well as US Bing. So for example, our Google US database alone accounts for almost 40% of our total database. There's 40 million keywords in our Google database alone. So that's the first layer of everything here. You need to rank for these keywords on a national level. And the next thing to consider is how we collect the data. SEMrush is like I always like to say that it's like an extremely large scale search engine results page tracker, or SERP tracker as they call them. So we very frequently query each keyword in our database and analyze the most important results for those keywords. So that's the top 20 organic results, and roughly the first page of results that appear in paid ads. So that's the second layer. Not only do you need to rank for these keywords, you also need to rank somewhere within the top 20 organic or paid results for them. And people often ask me, why only the top results? Why not go back further? And usually they think it's about resources, but we carry data literally on billions and billions of search engine results pages every year. So it's not necessarily about resources. Instead, it's all about relevance, because competitor analysis more often than not doesn't require you to understand where your competitor is failing. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that that's not useful information to have. You know, people look for that information. They want to see where their competitor fails. And you can see evidence of this in SEMrush as well sometimes. But, you know, usually it's their successes that are the most important. So how does all this information tie into receiving that nothing found message? Well, kind of now that you know how to properly interpret what you're seeing, there's a lot that you can take away from seeing a nothing found message, because it usually means that the web presence you're querying really needs to improve its visibility, whether it's for organic or paid. But that's exactly why you came here in the first place, right? So now you have that baseline. From here, it can only get better. And if you're a hired gun like a consultant, that's exactly what you want to see, because you know that now, you know that this domain needs your help. So there's no reason to be upset about a lack of data in SEMrush, because if it's not in our database, you know, do I dare say that it's not worth pursuing that data in the first place? What SEMrush has is a set of tools and the data that's necessary to help you succeed. You just have to kind of have the right mindset for it and the right approach to it. So don't be nervous when you see that nothing found message come up. And I think that's a great transition into the next complaint that we receive. Number 2, SEMrush data is wildly inaccurate. I had to throw that wildly in there. And I can't begin to tell you how often I hear this complaint. Primarily, I usually hear it from new users, and you know, even surprisingly, I've heard it from even a couple users with ongoing subscriptions. You know, do you know what that tells me? It tells me that regrettably, we don't do enough on our part to prevent that from happening. We don't often market the tool in such a way that kind of conveys exactly what you're getting when you sign up for an SEMrush account. But hopefully, prospective customers are going to reach this webinar today, you know, whether they're here live or by video, and I'm going to have a chance to kind of lay that all out there. So a lot of people sign up for our service under the pretense that they're going to get a true analytics platform, like something like Google Analytics. So the first thing they do is they come in, they enter their domain name, and they compare our traffic stats or our AdWords spending figures to what they know to be real life. Unfortunately, only to be completely thrown off when SEMrush reports don't quite jive with what they see in their internal platforms. The unfortunate truth, I mean, if you want to call it unfortunate, is that our software will not and probably should not be completely in sync with your internal analytics. That's kind of just the way it is. Our software, it's not meant to be a replacement or an alternative, and I think that's what a lot of the times people are looking for, but it's not meant to be that. If anything, it's meant to supplement, or in these days of not provided, SEMrush can actually be complementary to Google Analytics because you have access to those organic referral keywords again. But the question here that we were just asked is, what's up with those numbers? Well, contrary to what many people believe, we're not hacking into analytics accounts or anything like that. What we're doing is we're combining what we see in the search engine results pages, signals about like where the domain is ranking for their keywords, and then we're combining that with data relative to the keywords themselves, like monthly search volumes and average costs per click, in order to estimate how much traffic these keywords, that's the important part, how much these keywords drive to the domain, and if we're talking about AdWords, how much they're paying for them. So always remember, it's about those keywords that are in the report. Now, the exact formulas, of course, are proprietary, and no amount of torture will ever get it out of me, but I do accept PayPal and money orders, just saying. You have to keep in mind that we don't mind estimating based on data that we have access to. The last thing we want to do is make projections for data that we can't account for. So, projecting and forecasting is what some of our competitors do. and that's okay. You know, they make great products, and if it works for them, that's great. But in my opinion, I'd personally rather have an extremely educated estimation based on an accurate sample size than to have a projection or an assumption, as I like to say, an assumption about data that isn't there. So I always say that, you know, I tell customers a lot that you know your industry, you know your website better than anybody else. So why not happily marry your internal data with SEMrush data in order to build an even clearer picture of your competitors' traffic or their budgets, right? So I'm just going to go into a very basic example. So if you're trying to look or you're trying to look up you're trying to determine what your competitors' traffic is. So if you know that SEMrush is consistently reporting 25% of your own organic referral traffic, and in total, you know, organic referral traffic only accounts for 25% of your total traffic from all sources, then I think that you should feel confident, say, multiplying what you see in SEMrush, you know, by a factor of 4. As you can see, it's X times 4 because it's 25%. It's reporting 25%. And then multiplying that again to get you in a much better ballpark, right? So remember, our statistics are only relevant to the keywords in whatever report you're analyzing. We're not accounting for any other sources of traffic like direct visits or referrals from links or referrals from social. So, you know, you have to, as my late grandmother once said, don't hate, extrapolate. You know, you just have to look at the data that you have access to, know that it's a very trusted resource for that, and kind of extrapolate based on what you see. And don't try to put one against the other because it's never going to quite be in sync. So, speaking of the keywords that we see, what about the keywords that we don't see? And that leads me to the number 3 complaint is I don't see all of my keywords. Usually this can mean either organic or paid AdWords, but most of the time when I hear this complaint, users are referring to paid AdWords. Again, the complaint usually comes up sometime during the evaluation phase because people are looking for those new, more successful keywords for their AdWords campaigns. So they know exactly what keywords they're bidding on. Understandably, they're often going to try to come to SEMrush and compare it directly with their internal campaigns to see if we're capturing all those keywords. Now, the keywords in our database are the top however many most popular keywords for their respective region. Naturally, we aren't going to carry everything under the sun. It would be impossible. Especially, we see this the most when it comes to those, what I say, like those hyper-localized keywords, like something like septic plumbing service in small town Alabama. So when you see this, will it affect your initial reaction to, you know, the overall usability of our software? Yes, it would probably affect mine too if that was the first thing I saw. But again, the entire reason you came to SEMrush is for the competitor analysis data. So you may ask yourself, how can I find out what, you know, Jimmy's Contracting and Plumbing down the road is bidding on if you can't even find my local keywords, right? And then the answer is simple. You don't always have to look at the competitors that you know of or the competitors that are in the closest proximity. You know, there's probably hundreds of thousands of similar businesses across the entire United States. So especially those in more like heavily populated, you know, metropolitan areas where, you know, searches would include, you know, the root keyword plus a geo modifier that would be more likely to kind of pique our radars and be included in our database when you're looking at everything across a national level. So the good news is here that luckily people search the same way in Philadelphia or Los Angeles as they do in a small town in Alabama. They just use a different geo modifier. So the example I'm about to use is strictly to illustrate a point. I know that AdWords probably isn't going to be the go-to channel for, you know, really small one-horse towns, but let's say I'm Jimmy's Contracting and Plumbing, right, in small town Alabama. In cases like this, it may actually be better for me to analyze a national level competitor, someone like, you know, Michael and Son. You know, they do contracting, right? So I'm going to jump to the SEMrush interface and show you. So here I am in the dashboard. I'm using the guru level account today. That's our mid-tier account. And I'm going to show you exactly what I would do if I were, Jimmy's Contracting and Plumbing, and I tried to look up my competitor and wasn't able to locate the keywords that they're bidding on. So I'm going to look at somebody like michaelandson.com. Okay, so here I am at their domain overview report, which is a new, handy, improved version of it. It might take you some time to get used to, but we're rolling this out. It's a very new way of kind of looking at it, and everything's split up into different sections. You got your organic, paid search. Okay, so I'm going to click on paid search. It's going to scroll down automatically, and you're used to seeing those old like small little snapshots of tables, but now we have some really nice looking graphics here. Everything is still the same. It's just set up a little bit differently. So here's their top keywords. I can view full report, click on top keywords, or even use the navigation menu over here if I wanted to go to positions. But I'm going to show you from here. So we're going to click on paid search again, come down to the top keywords, view full report. Okay. So now we're at the paid search positions. This is going to show you all those keywords that have triggered paid ads for michaelandson.com in Google search, right? So as you can see, they're bidding on a lot of these national level keywords. If you don't think that helps you, you may want to try something else. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know if you guys ever used a tool called Merge Words. You can just look it up in Google. If you type in Merge Words, you'll get mergewords.com. So what I would do in a situation like this, if I still wanted to target those very hyper-localized keywords, I would export this report from Michael & Son, either Excel, CSV, or CSV semicolon. It's extremely easy. Just type or click on that export button, go to Excel or CSV, and it'll download right to there. I actually have it downloaded already. And I've whittled it down just for the sake of this example, just to these keywords that they're bidding on, these 15 keywords. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy those, and I'm going to take that into Merge Words. It's a very simple interface. It does exactly what you think it would do. It merges words. So we look at this big competitor like Michael & Sons, and we're looking at the keywords that they're bidding on even on a national level. And what we could do is just pop those right in, those 15 keywords in this one sandbox here. There's 3 sandboxes altogether, but the second one we'll use. And if you, like I said, if you really wanted to start, or if you wanted to keep with those geo modifiers, now we can start adding our geo modifiers in there, like your small towns in Alabama, like Cottonwood, and then some surrounding cities or towns, Sealy Springs, Hodgesville. That's another one. I got those all courtesy of Google Maps, because I've never lived in Alabama. So, and as you can see right here, it's going to tell you already there's 45 possible combinations. And once you click merge, you now have this list of those different keywords all broken down with the geo modifiers and all those different iterations of the keywords. You have 45 different ones. And these keywords are the keywords that your competitors down the road, in Johnny's plumbing and contracting down the road, these are the keywords that your successful competitors are most likely bidding on, or should I say, should be bidding on. And not to mention, for those out there who might just be starting to pursue paid AdWords, don't be afraid of, going after some of those what look like national level keywords, because Google doesn't always rely on a geo modifier. Everybody, there are many instances I see in SEMrush where people still use geo modifiers, plumbing in Philadelphia, plumbing in New York. People still type those keywords in, but a lot of times people don't. So Google doesn't always rely on a geo modifier to deliver paid ads. Google knows where you are when you search. So someone in your area who simply searches for plumber or waterproofing or kitchen remodeling, your ad may more than likely appear as long as things like quality score, maximum bid, and the campaigns, the AdWords campaign's geographic targeting settings are all in check and copacetic. But that's something for another webinar. But if you're just getting started with AdWords, don't be afraid to kind of bid on these keywords. And again, this is what you should do if you're ever faced with that situation where you can't find exactly what your competitor down the road or the one that you know of is bidding on. Go look for another competitor. That is the absolute best advice that I can give to any user that calls with this particular complaint. Okay, so now I'm going to jump back to my slides. And at this point, if you're still not convinced, it might just be because you're a prospective user saying, number 4, SEMrush data looks good, but I simply don't operate on a national level at all, and the local data that I need still isn't available. But this is exactly why we've built the position tracker. So position tracking works a little bit differently. And I always like to say that our web interface, what I was just using in that last example, that's our web interface. And that is more for discovery, since SEMrush, we think of those keywords and we go out and we look for the results for those keywords. But position tracking is great because it's based on the set of keywords that you give us. We'll go out on a daily basis and track exactly where you, or whatever the primary domain is that you set up, and I'll show you guys that in a moment, show you where you rank for any keyword that you can think of, regardless of its popularity, any long tail monstrosity that you can think of, we'll go out and we'll search for it because you're giving it to us. Okay? Additionally, some of the other benefits of the position tracker is that we go 10 pages deep as opposed to just those first 20 results. So we're going all the way back as far as the 10th page, roughly the 100th position, or maybe even more if there's like local results involved, to see where you rank. So you can find keywords that you're ranking for in lower positions as well. And finally, one thing that's great is that we can track positions for virtually any localized region of Google. So I'm going to walk through that just really quickly. Well, not really quickly, but I'll show you exactly how that works. So again, I'm going to jump back to the SEMrush interface here. And this will be under Tools in our navigation menu on the left, and then Position Tracking. So you can see all these great tools that we have here, and we keep adding to that arsenal of tools, which I think is great. But here's one that we've been working on for quite some time, and a reason why we're getting a lot of new users to the site, because they're excited about this particular tool here. And this is Position Tracking. So once you come here, this is your position tracking overview wizard, basically. All of your campaigns in one spot. These little overviews that tell you all kinds of information about your visibility and how many keywords that you have in the campaign, when it was last updated, what the location is. I'm going to show you guys how to set it up real quick. So you want to click on this button that says Add New Project. A project, we've moved over to this project system. And a project actually consists of two things: a position tracking campaign and a site audit campaign. Site audit's really great because it actually crawls your website, looks for those errors and those common SEO mistakes. It gives you actual suggestions with real substance behind those suggestions and how to fix those things. So a project consists of position tracking and site audit, as you can see here. So I'm going to use this fictitious domain for my general settings in my project, and it's, Jimmy's Plumbing and Contracting. Although I keep probably switching those. I probably said contracting and plumbing earlier. And just give that a title. I think I just switched it there too. So now we can either create the new project without doing anything else, or we can go create the project and go right to the tracking settings, which is what you want to do. And once this loads up, I'll show you. It's going to take you to the position tracking wizard, campaign wizard. So this is going to walk you through these very simple, I believe it's 6 steps now that are going to get your campaign underway, right? So you've already chosen what to track. You can do, if you wanted to change this, you could do a root domain, a subdomain, whether it be www. Or kitchenremodeling.jimmysplumbingandcontracting.com, whatever you'd like to track. But keep in mind, it always how it appears in the SERP is what's going to dictate that. So, you know, maybe before starting a site, or I'm sorry, a position tracking campaign, you might want to go into Google and type in site colon, you know, your website, just to see what pages Google is indexing and what URLs exactly they're indexing. Are they indexing, you know, www dot? Are they indexing just jimmysplumbingandcontracting.com, or is it a specific URL or a subfolder you want to track? You can do that too in here. But not 99, probably 90% of the time, what you're going to be looking for is instances of the root domain, since that kind of covers everything. We've given it a title, and we've chosen to use a custom title, and here's the title here. And the second part of the wizard is going to allow you to choose a specific location. So we can pretty much do anything we want here. If we wanted to keep everything on a national level, we could simply choose United States and then just omit the region and the city. But we want to get very, very localized. So now you can search for it in here, or you can just choose it from you know, your list of the 50 states. There's Alabama, which is what we were looking for. If you wanted to keep it at a state level, you would just omit the city. But we want to go even more local and look for our small town of, there it is, Cottonwood, right? We have a ton of options. I mean, basically that list comes from Google. So, you know, we take these different locations, and they're all right there in SEMrush. There's a whole ton of them. So it'd be hard pressed to find or not find your localized region. So as you can see, you can choose competitors here. We can define them if we want beforehand. You know, maybe our competitor is Johnny's Contracting and Plumbing.net. We can track his root domain, add them. Or if you didn't want to, you can always skip that step and come back later. Connecting to Google services, it's something that's relatively useful. You know, you can import keywords, which I'll show you in a second, but really there's not much right now to connecting Google Analytics or connecting Webmaster Tools at this moment. Most of the time I would probably skip it. But it is, you know, if, like I said, if you do need to import keywords from a campaign, you can do that as well. And here's where you'd start adding your keywords. So here's merge words. I'm just going to grab these keywords just as an example. Now these were our potential add words, but normally what we'd be doing is Normally what we'd be doing here is tracking where we rank organically for these keywords. So you can type them in one at a time. Keyword 2, you know, that's the tedious way. You know, paste them all right in there. You can also, so you're doing that manually, but we also give you these other options. You can do it from SEMrush, which is going to allow you to do it by domain. So we could look for a phrase filter for a specific domain and then suggest 20 organic keywords. Or we could do like a phrase match if I wanted to do kitchen remodeling and look for keywords related to that and how many of them, and then have it pulled directly from SEMrush. We could do it from a text file or a CSV file if we chose to. Or we could do it from Google services, as you can see here, but we didn't connect to any. So if we did, that's where we could pull keywords from as well. But we're going to stick to doing it manually. Once we have our keywords, we can either assign them tags like, local, and then move them all over. As you can see, there's all my tags. If I wanted to remove them, it's very simple. And here you go. There's my 45 keywords. I can choose to send myself weekly campaign updates via email if I'd like. Update the project and start tracking. It's really just that easy to get it started. Now from there, depending on how many keywords you have in this position tracking campaign, then it's going to take maybe from anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour to get rolling, and it's going to report where you rank for those keywords. So let me show you the one, while that's getting set up, let me show you the one that I've already prepared. And this is just for the sake of showing you how position tracking basically works. You know, obviously it was a fictitious domain, so there's no rankings at the moment. But if they were there, you know, we have a multitude of different reports that you can use to see where you and your competitors rank for these keywords on a daily basis. If we were ranking in position 20, you know, it would be position 20, 30, you know, all the way down. Hopefully not that low, but maybe a little bit higher, right? You can discover new competitors, compare multiple domains. It's a great tool, you know. for you to find kind of where you're ranking amongst your other local businesses for the same keywords. And I can also tell you, not necessarily show you right now, but I can tell you that we have a lot of great developments that are being released for the position tracker. And essentially what it's going to do is it kind of turn it into a mini SEMrush. So instead of defining those competitors in the beginning, you can type you're going to be able to type any competitor into a search field and see exactly which keywords they rank for in that keyword database, so to speak, that you've created. So play with the position tracking software if you haven't already. I've talked to so many longtime users that didn't even know it was there. It's extremely cool and is a very solid solution to our users' issues with local data. Okay, so we're almost about wrapping it up here. And finally, one last complaint I hear a lot. Number 5, SEMrush is too expensive. Guys, I love you, but unfortunately there's not much I can personally do about the price. And I have to admit, I kind of threw this one in there just to be funny. But in all seriousness, SEMrush promotes huge ROI. I always like to say that. We have a great set of features that help you determine those new, profitable, conversion-worthy keywords to help you improve, optimize your campaigns, generate new content. You can build links. You can scout new advertising channels and find clients that may need your PPC or your SEO management services. So it has a lot of potential to, I say, more than pay for itself. Relatively short one today. I want to thank you for joining me on this webinar. If you're a prospective customer and you're still very hesitant to try SEMrush or you think it's still too expensive, I'm issuing a promo code today that's available inside of the very short survey that'll appear when you close the webinar session. It's going to give you 2 free weeks of the SEMrush Guru account, which I was using today. You'll be asked for a credit card, but if for some reason you don't decide to stick around, you just have to cancel before the end of that 14-day trial so that you're not charged for that first real month of service. But hopefully, I think you'll stick around knowing what you know today, and you won't get scared off by those misconceptions that we see on a daily basis. So I would actually very much appreciate you taking the time to fill out the short survey, even if you're not interested in the promo, because it helps me improve and it helps us generate better content. As always, if you enjoyed today's webinar, feel free to share it. And if you hated it, feel free to let me know why. No stranger to criticism, so you can reach me on Twitter at the guy at SEMrush. You can reach me via email at the information you saw earlier. That's David_Black at SEMrush.com, like the color, BLACK. If you'd like to stick around for a few more moments, I'm going to be addressing any questions that we have related to the software. So if you have any, feel free to go ahead and type them into the questions box now. So the first question I have here is from Pippa. Hopefully I said that right. How often does SEMrush query our database? So what happens is, let's take a look at an example from the Google US database. So as I said, there's 106 million keywords in total. About 40 million of those are dedicated to our Google US database alone. And what we do is we break down that 40 million into tiers, essentially, by popularity. So we break it down into like 3 different sections. We have the top 1 million keywords, and then the rest, we split up into 2 other tiers. The top 1 million keywords are updated almost every single day because they're the most popular. So we'll go out and record and analyze the search engine results pages for those keywords almost every day. Before, a few months ago, what we were doing is we were doing just these historical snapshots at one point in time, bookmarking basically once per month. And you know what? That's not really effective in this ever-changing landscape where things change so quickly. So now we have this rolling update, and that's how it works. So throughout the course of an entire month, every single keyword will be updated, but some are more frequently updated than others. So we take the top million every day, and then we take one piece of each one of those tiers and update it every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or every few days. So there's an algorithm to it that kind of rolls everything out smoothly across the entire month. But most of the time, it's very rare where I see keywords not being updated very frequently. So usually any report you go into and you're looking at organic keywords, there's a last update column on the right-hand side that's going to show you when that keyword, oops, cancel that. I don't want to close the webinar. That's going to show you when the SERP data, the search engine results data, was last updated for that keyword. So I'll be happy to show you now what I'm talking about. So I've typed in Michael and Son. This is these are the guys I used in the webinar. Positions. These are the organic keywords. So these are the keywords that are triggering organic results for michaelandson.com within those top 20 positions. And as you can see, this last update column here shows you when some of the keywords were last updated. So let me put that in ascending order or a descending order, however you want to look at it. But as you can see, some of these were updated only just 5 days ago. So as we know, fluctuations, the SERPs don't fluctuate too much in that period of time. But, depending on the domain, I've seen it, if you're looking at some bigger guys, I've seen keywords being updated 2 minutes ago, 3 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, So you're always getting very fresh information from SEMrush. Rachel wants to know, when you upload a new project, will historical position data of the campaign plus competitor data be pulled in, or does it only start collecting data since the project was uploaded? Okay, it's a very good question, and the answer is yes and no. No, it's not going to pull retroactive data. Like, it always has to have a starting point somewhere. So it's always going to be from the time that you started the campaign. It's not going to do any back data. However, let's say you've had the campaign running for about a month or two, and you decide to add another competitor in there. Then if you change that competitor or swap another one out or add a different one, then we can actually go back and use the SERP data that we've cached already for your campaign and build that retroactive data for the competitor that you're adding. But unfortunately, for the primary domain in the campaign, it's from that specific time that it started. Okay. Sean wants to know, is a 2-week trial really enough to get a feel for the system for a prospective customer? I grapple with all these time frames when I do the promo codes, because if you give someone too much time, then they don't use it. I've always found, like, if we do a month for promo codes, people say, I got a month, and then they don't end up using it, which is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. So sometimes if you kind of slim it down and you give them 2 weeks, usually they'll be more inclined to use it during that time because there's a sense of, I guess, urgency, you'd say. I do think it's enough, with the right. I think 2 weeks is a great amount of time. Maybe you're not going to get completely acclimated with the system and understand it on like a very advanced level, but it's going to be enough to show you what you can get in there, and you can dig around. And even with the promo code for the Guru, everything is open. You're going to have access to all of these great tools and data sets at your disposal. We also offer webinars, orientation webinars for users. So what you can do is, once you sign up, you just go to our webinar section, which is found right up here, or you can go to semrush.com/webinars.html and sign up for an orientation webinar. We have a woman here named Maggie. She does a great job of walking customers or new users through our service and through the software, and touching on like the actual details, as far as what the different data points mean, the different columns, and explains in detail what everything means. So that's a very, very good resource to have if you're just starting out with SEMrush. And also, at the top of almost 99% of all of the reports, at the top right here, we have this watch video tutorial button. I've created these video tutorials that, whereas Maggie's webinars go into the details of each column and all that little stuff, and show you how to leverage the data. This is more, those webinars, or I'm sorry, the video tutorials kind of show you the real benefits, maybe those things that you haven't thought of, or how to use how to leverage the data to your advantage, maybe with these strategies that you haven't thought of quite yet. Okay, I hope that answers that question. Is there a way to identify advertisement surfacing in Google for keywords through SEMrush API? If yes, can you please provide the API URL for it? Okay, so what I think you're getting at there is basically, is there a way to see those that advertising data that we have, like position changes? Yes, ads history, all of that information is available via our API. It's very easy to access. You can just go to semrush.com/api.html, or you can go up to knowledge at the top left here and choose SEMrush API. And all of your different calls are going to be available in here. It's going to tell you the main keyword report, organic results, related keywords report, and it's going to give you all those different ways to formulate that call in the requested URL. Essentially what you're doing is you're just typing in a URL, okay, into whatever, even a browser. You can type it directly into your search bar, but as long as that URL is formulated a certain way, you're going to return raw data from SEMrush, essentially bypassing our interface. Okay, so all the cool looking modern graphics and stuff like that, that is just it's just a shell for that real data, and it's being presented in a different way. So the API is a way to programmatically tap into just that raw data, and I use it a lot. I use it a lot myself. It's all based off of a points system where you pay for API units, and then depending on the price of the call, because every call is going to be a little bit different in price and how many lines of data it returns, then that's how you get charged for that. So an API plan is $15 per month, and then you purchase units on top of that. It does come with some units, but if it's not enough, you can purchase units on top of that. If that's something you're interested in, by the way, API, if you're going to be using a large amount of API, or maybe integrating SEMrush data into our tool, into your own third-party tool or something, that's definitely not out of the question. So feel free to contact our guys here. Send us an email, mail@semrush.com, and we'll be happy to get you in touch with somebody who can help you integrate and figure out exactly what you need and get the ball rolling on that. Of course, custom reporting is available too. So if there's something that you don't see in SEMrush, a lot of people don't know that we produce these custom reports like, top 50,000 keywords in Google US, or, top 100,000 domains spending money on AdWords in Google or something. These are the things that you can leverage. We've had a lot of clients use that to kind of identify other areas or other people who may be interested in advertising on their own platform, because they're already interested in purchasing ads. They purchase ads through Google. So it's information like that that becomes very useful. So custom reporting options are available. Same thing. Send us an email. We'll be happy to get everything worked out for you. Is there a tool to practice using SEMrush to find strong conversion-worthy keywords with the word "find" in quotation marks? So, yeah, I mean, hopefully I understand correctly. You can find conversion-worthy keywords all over the site. That's what competitor analysis is all about. We sort them and do the analysis for you, essentially, where we're looking at their top-performing keywords or AdWords in terms of different parameters. So let's just take a quick look real quick. So we're looking at Michael & Son again, and there is a ton of advertising research under here. So if we just go to positions, you'll see that this is sorted by traffic percentage. And basically what we're doing is we're looking at the position that their ad is ranking. As you can see here, it'll show you exactly a little graphical representation of where that ad ranks, whether it's at the top, on the side, or even at the bottom. That's what that icon is going to show you. It's going to show you exactly those conversion-worthy keywords. And then what we do is we base it on the position that they're ranking, the search volume for those keywords, because statistically, the way we estimate it is statistically you get a certain amount of the monthly search volume for that keyword. So if 49,500 people are searching for kitchen every month, then statistically you're going to get some click-through rate just by virtue of where you rank for an ad. Now, it is, yes, it's an estimation. It's a blanket predetermined click-through rate, because we're not we're not breaking our keywords down by different verticals, or trying to trying to figure out some sort of user intent or whether they're branded keywords or anything like that. That kind of stuff is up to you to decide. But once we look at the position and the search volume, we can say, okay, the domain is getting roughly this much traffic from this particular ad. And when we look at that in relation to all 5,845 keywords that we found for this particular domain, we can show you the percentage, the traffic percentage. So we say that this would be like their top performing ad in terms of search volume and position. And then we can see that actual ad here. And there's some other very useful information that we can see here. If we go to ads history, located under here, I'm going to let that try to load up. Usually I have everything loaded up, but I wasn't prepared for this question exactly. So, but what this report is going to do is show you every instance of when we saw an ad, saw michaelandson.com running an ad for a particular keyword. And it almost lays it out in, I don't know, kind of like a calendar view for you to see based on coverage. So if they're continuing to bid on a specific keyword throughout the course of an entire year, this is where you're going to be able to see it. You're going to be able to see how often they bid on that keyword, and also whether there's been any changes in their ads copy. I think that's very useful too. So once that loads up, it's a vast amount of data, which is probably why it's taking a while to load up. I could probably have showed you that on a smaller domain. There we go. Good. Okay, so this is what we're looking at here. So Woodbridge Plumbing, electrician, Gaithersburg MD, these were keywords based off of coverage. When we say coverage, that's how often they're bidding on the keyword. We can see how often they're bidding on it, which is a great indication of how well it performs for them, okay? Or how well it's performing at the moment. So, it may take a dive during certain months where they lower their bid on it because maybe they know there's less demand for that particular product during a certain month or something like that. Maybe they change their ads copy and it didn't bode well for them, anything, But by clicking on, whenever you see a blue shaded cell, we can see, by clicking on it and then scrolling through, we can see when they've actually had an ad running. So July and August, we couldn't find them in relation to this keyword. And then we got back in September and October, and the number inside indicates where they ranked for that particular keyword. So hopefully this information is helpful for you. The answer, I guess, was there's information all over SEMrush that is going to kind of help you make those educated decisions that are going to help you improve your advertising campaigns. 2 questions from Bob. How does your keyword suggestions compare to the Google keyword tool in AdWords provides? Okay, so I'm going to go out on a limb and say something, I don't often like saying, because it's not, it's not like SEMrush and Google have some sort of bad blood. But think about it, Google they're in the business of selling keywords. That's what they do. I don't know what algorithms they use to lump all those keywords together for keyword suggestions, but I have a feeling there's some influence based on what those keywords cost or things of that nature. Whereas SEMrush is kind of all unbiased. Keywords, we're not really suggesting keywords. What we're doing is we're actually looking for the instances of what keywords trigger the AdWords advertisements for your competitors, their organic rankings. So it's not necessarily a suggestion. I mean, it's looking at exactly what is doing it for your competitors and then using that information to your advantage for whatever goal you have in mind, whether it be for your organic or your paid campaigns. Bob wants to know, this might be the second question, how often the backlink report is updated. I can say the backlinks is very much still in beta. As you can see, we've made some, if you've been looking at it recently, we've made some vast improvements to the UI. How often there's really no rhyme or reason. We're testing a lot of different iterations of crawlers. We're not importing these from third parties. We're actually going out and looking for these backlinks ourselves. Things need to be tweaked. You always need to tweak the crawlers and make sure everything's working correctly. So we send them out every so often, and we build this backlinks database as we go. So there's really no rhyme or reason, but it's kind of just like, if we're pinging those websites, we're pinging them and then we're bringing that information back. So it's quite possible you may see backlinks, for the domain. There might be backlinks that were just added only a few days ago, or maybe a month ago. It all depends on how our crawlers are seeing everything. So unfortunately, like I said, there's no set schedule, but keep your eye on it basically. And the backlink section is going to get much better. Let's see. Here's one from Chad. On PDF reports, when creating PDF reports, it only allows you 100 keywords per PDF report. If we have 200 keywords, we have to create a report per 100 keywords. Is it possible to download one report with all the keywords? Yeah, this can be a little tough because the way PDF works, I'm not sure, if you have any experience with like a site architecture or anything like that. When you're creating the PDF from this data, it's creating the PDF from what you see on the screen at the current moment. It's a little tedious, yes, but there are ways to. So if you went through and you created a PDF for one page, then jump to the other, create a PDF for that page, is that always the most convenient option? No, not really. To be perfectly honest, no, it's not. But that's just how PDF kind of works right now. Maybe it's something that we can do in the future. I think there might be something we can do, but currently that's the way it works right now. And then you could use some kind of third-party program, like I think Mac or Apple has something in there where you can kind of combine PDF reports, PDF files into one and then create a larger file. Again, Adobe Acrobat allows you to do that stuff too. But what I always like to use is just the straight up exports for the CSV and Excel. That's going to pull all that data into one shot. And then what you could do is, if now that you have that raw data, you can then port that over into your own reports to make it visually the way you would like to see it. The only thing that we ask is that it's not white labeled and we don't you don't resell that data. Okay. Okay. So Pippa wants to know, when I show SEMrush to results to clients, they often remark at any irrelevant, seemingly strange keywords. How would I respond to this? Here's the thing. Again, we're completely unbiased, okay? You wouldn't believe how many times, especially with AdWords, where I've seen large companies, small companies, they have their AdWords campaign set up to just hit broad match, just to target these keywords broad match. And, someone like LensCrafters, they obviously, LensCrafters, a big company, they have budget to throw around, but, they're bidding on keywords like someone's name, Robert Glass, just because that got lumped into there. So are they seeing any conversion off of it? No. Is it statistically that they might be paying for clicks on this keyword? Yes. And it's lowering their conversion rates, their quality scores, everything. And it's hurting their campaigns. It's hurting their bottom lines and taking money from them. So that's the kind of thing that you can see in SEMrush. So let's take a look real quick. If we look at positions, report, let's do advertising. Okay, so advertising research positions. Michael and Son might come back and say SEMrush is wrong. We're not bidding on the keyword kitchen, or something to that effect. And we could say, oh yeah, absolutely, you're bidding on the keyword kitchen, because we can see right here in the SERP source, right here, there is a column for SERP source. If you click on that, oh, sorry guys, I have ad block on in an extension. I do that all the time, so let me pause ad block. It actually blocks the SERP cache too. Okay, and there you can see, there's Michael and Son right there as it appeared on May 15th, 2014. Yes, when we queried this keyword, your domain came up. And this particular way of doing it leaves very little room for error. I have maybe seen once in my entire existence here where a bug caused it to be wrong, but any other time, here it is. I've seen people have their geo-targeting set up wrong, where people in California were geo-targeting places in Canada. People's local dentists were targeting places in another country, and they didn't even know it until they saw what they saw in SEMrush when they typed in their domain, and they said, do I have keywords coming up in Canada? Well, that's why. So you can always check that SERP source and show it to your clients and say, here it is. So in some capacity, in some way, you bid on this keyword, or Google is for some reason identifying you with this strange keyword organically. Maybe there's something we need to do, a little online reputation management, not really online reputation management, but we need to do something to make sure that Google isn't indexing you for this or isn't associating you with these weird keywords or something like that. So yeah, there's always things that you can see in SEMrush that are going to help you, and it's a very useful, very handy thing to have. Long question here. Bear with me real quick. Though my experience with SEMrush has been limited, I find that without being able to analyze subdomains, that the data isn't very pertinent to our business. Do you have any advice on how to analyze a competitor if the pertinent page we want to analyze is something like competitor page / analyze this page, maybe .html or shoes.zappos.com? There is a way. One way is position tracking for certain. If you wanted to build that keyword database like I showed you guys earlier, that's one way to do it. But there is another way to do it in SEMrush if you're just trying to discover keywords. And one of them is to pull the URL. So as you can see, we always have this visible URL column. This is ads keyword. So let me jump to the organic positions. That is a much better way to illustrate this particular example. So here's the visible URL, or the destination, maybe even URL, associated with the organic result for Michael and Sons here. So as you can see, all these have a result or a URL associated with it somewhere. And sometimes it's a full-on URL, like this. Okay, air conditioning repair. So if we wanted to analyze this particular URL, we could do that. And one way is to simply just click on it. But maybe I can do it like this. I can show you. Here's the Michael and Sons landing page, right? I can copy this. Maybe it's acrepair.michaelandson.com. But just for the sake of this particular example here, I can copy that URL and make that query for this URL right in SEMrush. You can make 3 queries in SEMrush. You could do a domain, a root domain. You could do a keyword, or you can do a specific URL. URLs are, keep in mind that if you ever do a URL query, there's many different iterations of URLs. Sometimes they have slashes on the end. Sometimes I've seen them indexed with HTTPS. It's just all about how they're indexed in Google. So, keep that in mind. Some may have no www, okay? But watch what happens when you query a specific URL. So it's going to take you to this URL report. And if there were ads associated with that, they would show up here. But currently, there's only these keywords showing up. These are the keywords that are producing organic results for this specific URL. And this is the best way to compensate for the lack of, being able to exactly look up a specific subdomain. But one other thing that I can tell you is that don't be afraid to try just a subdomain, because there's, I think, oh man, there's a couple thousand in there that we treat as top-level domains. So, maybe like Blogspot or something like that, blogspot.fashionshoes.com or something. So don't be afraid to try them. If it reverts back to, this is what you'll see happen. acrepair.michael, whatever, and son.com. So if you see this happen, for some reason, it'll remove that subdomain. That usually just means that we don't have information for that particular subdomain. But don't be afraid to try it. If not, try the URL. If that doesn't work, build your own database with the SEMrush position tracking tool. Okay, so we're creeping up on the hour mark. Let's see here. Where is the trial page? Okay, so once you close out this webinar, Neil, it's going to come up with a short survey, and the actual bit.ly link is going to be included in that survey. So copy that and keep it there. Open up a new browser window, pop that in there, and then hit enter, and you'll be taken directly to the landing page for that trial. It should say that your today's charge is $0, and it'll also tell you that you're going to be billed on this particular day, which is going to be 2 weeks from now. So make sure all that is copacetic, and then you can go ahead and place your order and get your trial started. Subdomain, espn.go.com. Let's check it out. Let's see if that's one of them in there. Hopefully it is. Maybe that'll make us look great. We are great. But I don't know, because usually it's like those, like I said, it's those, no, wait a minute. There you go. There you espn.go. Kevin. So there, yeah, I mean, there are some subdomains that we treat as top-level domains, as you can see. So it's always worth trying. And again, if not, you could try those other alternatives. Thank you for that, Kevin. I really appreciate that. Drew, thank you for participating. And it looks like that's the end of the questions. It's 3:08. It's been about an hour now. Again, thank you for hanging around. Feel free to contact me if you need anything else. I'm always here to help. Or if for some reason I can't get back to you, then one of our very invaluable members of our customer success team will be able to help you. And especially if you're a new customer, prospective customer, we'll help you on board. If you're a current paid user and you still want to learn more about SEMrush, we have the resources. You go to youtube.com/SEMrush HQ, like headquarters. So it's SEMrush HQ. You can find a lot of valuable information on there. Or you can go to webinars.html and sign up for a webinar. So there should be ones coming up soon. Yeah, there you go. May orientation webinars. So we have a whole bunch of them. Well, this is May. We'll have new ones coming in June. And you can just click on there to register for the one that's most convenient for you and take a deep dive into the software. Again, thank you very much. I hope this has been valuable. And if you have anything else, feel free to reach out. Thanks, guys.